welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Today we're going to be speaking about memories and dreams. Some memories are very sweet, such as childhood ones of good family times, but other memories are really bad and can leave you with scars for years to come. You wish you could forget, but you just can't. And then we have dreams. We'll be looking at why people have dreams and why are some so bizarre or even terrifying. My guests tonight are Andrew Bernard, a counsellor who specialises in memories. And also we have psychotherapist Naomi Shragai, who will be telling us about dreams and the subconscious mind. And later on, I'll also be answering a question from a viewer in a dilemma in the What Would Chrissy Do section. Now, if you would like to participate in this show tonight, you can. It's a live show, so you're free to call, you're free to email us. The number to call is 020-7686-6300. And if you'd like to email, it's chris@chrissybshow.tv. Now, I know maybe some of you have lots of bad memories. Maybe you'd like to share some of that with us. You don't have to give your real name or anything like that. And also maybe you have dreams and you're a bit worried about why you're having these constant dreams and you'd like to also, send a question through, or you can call us as well. Please do so, because these shows, they do aim to help as well. But let's introduce our first guest, and that's Andrew. Good evening, Hello. Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure. So can you tell us briefly what you do, first of all?
Well, I'm a counsellor now. My background was in probation. I was a probation officer for about 22 years, mainly in North London, sometimes in Bristol. And I teach. It was tough. It's a tough business. I was specialising mainly in high risk and long term offenders, right. So it was at the pretty more serious end of things. But it did give me a good grounding in counselling, which I've used since. I teach both here and in Russia, train staff out in Russia, and I'm now a private counsellor in North London.
Okay, so tell us a bit about memories. What actually are they, and how do they affect us?
Okay. Well, a useful way to think about memories is you might want to think about your mind as being like a stage director, which takes a memory from your past and gives it the scenery, gives it the props by which you remember. And so you might say, on a very simple level, I remember a lovely picnic I had when I was 10 and my auntie was there and my dad was there, and I remember my mum looking really lovely and la 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 la. So that's the scene. As a counsellor, what I'd be looking at would be the other component, which is how you feel about that, what you remember, the feelings that memory evokes, because that's the bit that we work with. So sometimes the memory can be a big event, like a wedding or a birthday party or a Christmas dinner or whatever. And sometimes it can be something quite small, just like a word said across a dinner table or an overheard remark by someone else. The scenery doesn't matter. The person comes to you distracted by the scenery. They remember the picnic, they remember the wedding or the whatever. What I'm looking for and what I'm listening for is the feelings that went with that. Two components. It's the scenery and the memory within inside, the feelings within that.
Okay. I mean, some people, they had been through an awful past, and all they have, or all they think they have, are really terrible, terrible memories. And it's like they can't seem to move forward in life because they're so stuck in the past. And it's understandable, if you have been through a horrible past, you haven't got much to sort of look back on, and sometimes people say, oh, how was your childhood, how was growing up? And you've got nothing to say because you don't want to expose everything that you've been through, obviously. But how do you help people out of that sort of place that they are, where it's all bad and they can't ever see themselves sort of moving forward or having a happy life?
Right, well, it's a bit like someone said to me, I don't like talking about my past because it's a bit like going through dirty washing. And to take what you just said there about that people don't all have bad memories about every aspect of their life. There'll be something positive in there. The first thing, you have to acknowledge the pain. You can't just say, oh, let's look on the bright side, or let's just try and remember the good things.
You can't just sweep it under the carpet, can you?
Because they're suffering. If they're trapped in a bad memory, they'll be preoccupied by it and they'll be hurting. So you have to acknowledge that, do some work with that, talk with them about that. Then I'd look for things where things went well in their past, so that they could remember those, because there's a perspective thing going on. Sometimes the bad memory can be so huge that it will actually overshadow the positives. And the phrase about, the memories that you've had are in the past, but your present are going to be the memories you're going to have in the future. So you can start building your good memories from now, rather than say, I'm a victim of all these terrible things in the past. You can start building on the positives. It's a long, slow process, but first you have to acknowledge the pain.
Now, I know, for example, when people do have a lot of internal issues and they haven't spoken about it, it's like where it's just darkness there.
Yeah.
And you really need to kind of shine that light and expose that darkness, because if things do remain hidden, sometimes people are embarrassed to talk about what's happened to them, or even not even things that happen to things that they've done themselves, because people live in guilt for so many years and it eats them up. But it's good to actually expose that and talk to someone, because as long as it's there hidden, it's just festering and it's just getting worse, and people don't realize how much it's actually affecting them. So even though it might be embarrassing sometimes, or you'll feel like, you know, I'm exposing myself to someone, but at least you're letting go of that. It's a form of actually letting go, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there were some prisoners that I dealt with, offenders, who, believe it or not, did feel really terrible about what they had done and weren't able to face up to what they had done. Now, if I'm assessing...
How do you deal with that?
Well, if I'm assessing them for release, the first thing I'm looking at, I'm not there to be their therapist. I'm there to make sure they're safe. But when they come out, the rest of us, that's the general public as well.
Can you tell if someone's just sort of saying it just to get out, or?
Yeah, you try from different angles to see how consistent they are and see whether it tallies up. Because the thing about, if you're telling lies, you've got to be consistent. And I'm the one that's keeping record of what they're saying. So,
well, it's really smart to do that.
Yeah, you have to keep a good record. And so, but some prisoners would feel generally very bad about what they had done and wouldn't want to talk about it. Now, I had to know that they would be in control of themselves when they came out. That they weren't just going to say, I don't want to talk about that bit of myself or that bit of my behaviour, my drunken aggression, for example. I don't want to talk about it, because I'd have to make them talk about it, because I'd have to know how they were going to control their drinking when they came out, how they control their anger. So that could be quite a difficult process. But by helping them do that, you help them get a sense of control. And I think one of the things about things from the past is if they are painful, what they can do, they can become quite disabling. You can't get on with your life. You're so busy thinking and re-recalling the pain and the trauma, etc., etc. The idea is to help them move on. It's a positive process. It's not about dwelling in the past, as some people say, oh, if you're doing counselling, aren't you just dwelling in the past? No, it's dealing with the past and moving on.
Right. And I think we've got some comments as well from our viewers, Amelia.
Yes, we do. We have one here from David from North London. He comments, every time I smell homemade cakes, it reminds me of my mother, who was famous in baking. It reminds me of when I would help her top up the icing on the cake. She now lives on the other side of London, so we don't get to see each other much. But every time I smell good baking, it reminds me of her.
Okay, tell us about the good memories.
Oh, the good memories that I've dealt with. I could recall a guy who had a very troubled background, and he was from a very wealthy family and a very privileged life on the surface, but his parents were quite neglectful of him and quite abandoning of him, and he was pushed off to private schools and boarding schools where he never got to see his family. And he began to feel that he was quite unloved and began to feel quite tearful all the time as an 8, 9, 10-year-old. And he felt that he wasn't lovable. And it was a local priest who was a really lovely man who spotted this and took him out to the river each day to go fishing, and then took him to watch badgers at dusk feeding. And he remembered this, and he remembered this feeling of being well loved by this man, well regarded, being safe, and being out in nature. And for him, this became a kind of marker. It made him think, it's possible for me to be loved. It's possible for grown-up men to love me in a nice way, in a positive way. And he went on to become a father and of his own son. And he talked very openly and freely about, you know, how difficult his little toddler boy can be. But he's clearly a very affectionate father, and he learned that from hanging on to that good memory of his.
Do you think people in general, they tend to remember bad things rather than good? Because I think I read some research once, so they did some kind of tests on the activities of the brain, and it's like when people saw like a negative image, for example, or instead of a positive one, the brain activity was really high. Yeah. So is that in general?
It would make sense. It would make sense on a purely kind of survival basis. If you perceive ourselves as animals at some very basic level, then the very first thing an animal needs to do, above all else, is not die, is survive, and is to be safe. So the animals would be hardwired to pick up danger and problems. So we would spot them and tend to focus on them. Now, in every day, you don't walk down the street thinking about all the terrible things that could happen to you in the street, or maybe have happened to you. You need to be able to have a balance, be able to hold the bad memories and know that they're in the past and they're gone, and be able to retain a sense of positivity about yourself and your future. So it's a balancing act.
Okay, Andrew, can you tell us a bit more about the work that you did with offenders? Because I'm quite interested in the way sort of they would think and how you would help them.
Well, I mentioned before about assessing prisoners, so that was partly about getting to recall their offences. That's a kind of quite a dark art, if you will, but trying to get them into that frame of mind where they could recall what they had done, and then I could make an assessment about how much in control they were. But there's another aspect of working with prisoners which I enjoyed greatly, which was, and also a big challenge, which was when I encountered a long-term prisoner at the very beginning of his sentence, supposing he'd been given, say, 8, 10, 12, 15 years or life. One of the first reactions in the first few months, apart from shock, would be to say, I don't want any visits. I'm cutting myself off from my family. It's too painful for them. It's too painful for me. And they would retreat into this kind of shell, very isolationist and very detached from the world, and often not speaking. And that would take a lot of work with them, but my role would be to talk to the family and say, this is what the man is saying. It's usually a man in my case. I dealt with mainly with male prisoners. What do you want? They'd say, no, we still want to see him, I still want to see him. And the children in particular would say, I want to see my dad. So I'd go back to the prisoner and try and encourage some contact. And usually they would resist, but then I would coax them into talking about their family, not to their family, but about their family. Tell me about when you first met your wife. Tell me about when you first saw your girlfriend. What was your first date like?
Isn't that really painful for them, though?
Yeah, sometimes they would really, really resist. But the idea, it took patience and a very, very softly approach. And in doing so, in recounting, because memories come laden with feelings, they would remember what it was that they had. And they would start to make a connection with it. And the area that was particularly potent and to tread very carefully was when they talked about their children. And I'd say, have you got a photograph? I've never seen a photograph of your kid. And they always had a photograph of their kid. They'd always show it to me, and they would be proud. And you had to say, what a lovely looking kid. And they would beam. And you knew there was something going on. And also, I had to bear in mind, this wasn't a service, a kind of free service to help the prisoner. The prisoner's doing a punishment, and that's how it should be. I was thinking the family is suffering here. I mean, there's something like between 160,000 and 200,000 children in this country whose one of their parents is in prison.
Wow.
It's a huge amount. In 2006, more children were affected by their parent going to prison than were affected by divorce. It's a huge, like, yes, an unacknowledged kind of phenomenon that goes on. And there are very few organisations that deal with it. There are two that I think deserve a mention. One is the Integrated Family Support Project in Islington, which ties families in with their prisoners and does a lot of work. Another one is in Dartmoor Prison, based in Dartmoor, called Storybook Dads and Storybook Mums. And they get the prisoner to read if they can read, and if they can't, it's read to them. The prisoner reads out line by line a story, a famous fairy tale or a story that they know their kid likes. That's recorded, sound effects are added, and atmosphere is added, and music is put over the top. That's all done by prisoners. And then that's made into a CD, given a personalised photograph cover, and it's sent to the child from the dad. So the child has got a bedtime story read by the dad to the child, which is great for the kid because they know their dad's okay, and the dads love it because they get some contact with indirect contact with their kids. It's all about building the bridges.
It's not about being separated. You can still have that connection with your family. Okay, now I'd really like to reassure our viewers actually that are watching that do have bad memories, that it is possible to be happy. And I'm all about happiness, right? I want to pass this on to people as well, because a lot of people have awful memories, but I also know many people, hundreds, thousands of people I know of, we've heard stories that they come through that even though they have a past or they've done something before, they've built new memories. They've changed things around, and just because you were a certain person in the past doesn't mean you're the same person. And I think a lot of maybe is, forgiving yourself as well for what's happened.
Oh, right. Now that's absolutely vital. Yeah, I think you've touched on something very important. The truth is, there's not a person on this planet who doesn't have a bad memory of something in their life. We could all, if we sat down, relate our bad memories. Some memories, though, are particularly traumatic and can trouble someone and get them stuck. With those, I'd say the first thing to do is to bring it into your consciousness, and by that I mean something as simple as talking about it. Find someone you trust to talk to. Now, obviously I'm a counsellor, so that's what I do, but if you're not ready for a counsellor, find a trusted friend. You can say what happened. Now the thing is, if you do that, it doesn't make it better straight away. It will be painful. Memories come laden with feelings, as I keep saying, and you'll evoke some of those painful feelings of loss, and you might even cry. But you know what? No one ever died from crying. Crying's okay, you know, and feeling sad is okay. Feeling sad is often a step towards feeling happy again. So I think we should allow that to happen. And then one of the things that, say for example, one of the things I would do would be to look for exceptions, as I said before. Look for exceptions in that person's life where they start to put that bad memory in a wider context. So rather than the memory becoming the whole landscape of their past, they start to see it as part of a landscape. And then my job would be to deal with that bad memory, but raise their eyes so they start to look at the rest of their life and say, what else went on in your life? What else has been good? Maybe a good friend from school, a teacher you loved, and so on.
And even good things that you've done.
Good things that you've done. And to your point about forgiveness is absolutely vital. Yeah, people can get so hooked up on guilt, and guilt's an appropriate response for bad things that we do, but it shouldn't be a crippling one. We should learn eventually to say, enough already.
That's right. Stop beating yourself up, because everyone's got a past at some point. You're going to stay with us, Andrew.
I will,
We're going to go to a quick break, and after the break, we're going to be continuous with this topic as well, but we're also going to be speaking about dreams, and we're going to have someone else joining us after this break, so join us then. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, where we're speaking about memories and dreams. So on this section now, we're going to go more into the dreams part of things. You know, we all have them, whether it's dreams or whether it's nightmares, everyone goes through them. But why do some people take them so seriously, and you know, they can even end up affecting people? So we have with us today Naomi Shragai, and she's going to discuss dreams and the unconscious mind. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, nice to be here.
So can you tell us a bit about what you do first of all as well?
Well, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm currently in private practice. I work with individuals. I also see couples and families. And for years I specialized actually in working with people with eating disorders, primarily in relationships with their families. But also what I found over the years that if people are suffering with eating disorders, it has an enormous effect on relationships, people close to them. So I've worked quite a lot with couples where one person suffers with an eating disorder.
And it affects the other.
And affects the other, that's right, that's right.
So tonight we're going to be speaking about dreams and the unconscious mind. So we were speaking earlier in the agreement with quite some interesting things were coming up. Now, everyone has dreams or nightmares, so, but why is it that some people maybe dream more maybe than others, and they seem to get affected by their dreams, do you think?
Well, everybody dreams. Some people remember their dreams and other people don't remember the dreams quite so well. Now, dreams reflect all sorts of different things for different people. For some people, they reflect their desires, things that they wish to happen. So sometimes things that they wish for in their lives will manifest in their dreams. You know, for other people, their dreams reflect things that they worry about in their lives. Perhaps things they might be anxious about. So anxiety dreams are very, very common.
Can you give some examples of that?
Well, people might be very anxious about a job interview. So they'll have dreams about their interview. Or very common dreams are anxiety dreams for a wedding. I think if you ask most people about what they're dreaming before their wedding, they're dreaming about all sorts of wedding disasters. Groom running off, guests not showing up, dress not fitting, hair not being right. So everything that they worry about might manifest in a dream. But for other people, you know, dreams might be a way of working through past traumas or bad experiences. So for some people, for example, some soldiers perhaps returning from war who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, they might have dreams of experiences in wars, you see. So dreams reflect all sorts of parts of ourselves and of our minds.
And is it as well things obviously that we see during the day as well? So that sometimes my dreams are so crazy But as soon as I've woken up from a dream, I can trace exactly where and why I dreamt certain things, because certain things that happened to me, things that I saw, maybe something that I saw on the TV, it's all there in that dream. And I remember for just maybe a few minutes, I remember why I've had that dream and where it's come from. So I never worry about my dreams. It's not something that affects me. So even if I have a bad dream, my attitude is, okay, wherever you came from, I don't care, but I'm not going to pay any attention, because I know people that when they have a bad dream and it ruins their whole day because they really think something bad's going to happen to them, or whatever they dreamt is going to come true. And it just, basically they live in fear because of a dream that happens. How can we reassure our viewers, do you think, Naomi, that it's okay, it's not going to happen, or you don't need to worry about that?
Well, what I can say is it's not going to happen, and you don't need to worry about that. We do dream about things that make us anxious. Now, dreams, like thoughts and worries, just because we have thoughts and worries and dreams, by no means does that mean they're actually going to happen in reality. But it does show us the things that we might be worried about. But dreams are, there's no evidence at all to suggest that what happens in dreams actually happens in real life.
Did you hear that, viewers? I think that's something so reassuring for people, because I know that, we were discussing this earlier as well, we're talking in agreement, sometimes you might have a dream. Say, for example, you had a really terrible dream about your boss, that he was plotting to get rid of you from your workplace. And then you have this dream in your head, and then you're going to work. So you start behaving in a different way towards your boss, right? So it's a possibility, and you start sort of becoming suspicious, and any little thing that he or she will say, it's a means you start to worry, you start to stress. Then you start to behave differently at work, and you start to maybe be a bit distant from him, and you're not performing as well. And then because of the way you've started behaving because of a dream, you could even end up losing your job. Because of the way you started to behave and the way you started to treat your boss. So it had nothing to do with your boss. It was just you changing your behavior because of a dream that you've had that could eventually lead to something negative.
And the dream started with
everyone.
the dream started with a worry, which wasn't being dealt with, and that came in, as Naomi would say, comes into the conscious, and comes into the dream world. You act on it, but it goes back to the worry. Just I might be losing my job. I wonder what would happen if I lost my job. And so it's not dealt with.
So it's like a fear, isn't it? It's the fear that it's not the dream itself. It's just the fear that the person already had.
Well, exactly. But you have to realise that if you're having anxiety dreams about losing your job, what it means, in fact, it doesn't mean that you're losing your job, but what it does mean is that you're holding a lot of fears around your job. And if you are having a lot of anxiety dreams, it is worth trying to examine those fears and come to understand them. And then, really
why
to think,
are you having them?
why are you having these fears?
Changed, maybe?
Why are you having these fears, and are these fears unrealistic? Now, it could be that you're somebody that has a lot of anxiety or worry about being rejected, about failing, perhaps not performing well, and all these become expressed in a worry or a fear that you might be losing your job, you see. But for everybody, it might mean something else. But it's worth stopping and thinking about. Certainly worth stopping and thinking about.
Well, let's see some of the dreams that our viewers have been having that they're worried about. So, Amelia, can you tell us a few, please?
Yes, we do have one from Sarah from London. She comments, I once had a dream of me running away from my own wedding. It seems so real. I don't know if it's because I personally would not like to get married. I'm now 24 and I wish to get married in the next 7 years.
That's quite specific.
Now, that's quite specific. Now, that's a very good dream. Now, if somebody were to bring that dream to me, I'd want to ask her about her anxieties about committing to marriage, because it could be that the reality is that she, there is a possibility that she's actually frightened of being in a committed relationship or in a marriage, and I'd want to find out what her fears might be. So if she's having those dreams repeatedly, it'd be very interesting to find out more.
So it could have something to do with her parents' marriage, perhaps, or maybe a divorce that happened, or examples that she saw, from other people that didn't get along, or even could be something from the past, probably.
Absolutely, because if her parents had a bad marriage, you see, or she sees people around her having a bad marriage, she might be thinking somewhere in her unconscious that perhaps isn't for her.
Yeah. Okay, Amelia, have you got any more?
Yes, we have quite a scary one from Adele.
Oh.
I had a dream that I was watching my own funeral. Oh, everyone was around my coffin crying. I could see my mother holding my father's hands, and crying also. I tried to speak to them, but they couldn't hear me. I even tried to touch them, but they walked straight past me. Wow.
Know me. What do you make of that?
Oh, well, quite a lot into that. Well, it's a very interesting dream, and it's a dream I think psychotherapists would have quite a lot to say
Really?
about.
Tell us.
But, you know, all of us carry, many of us carry fears and anxieties around death and dying. So certainly those are some questions to ask as of her feelings around death and dying. But interesting, what strikes me about the dream is that her people close to her couldn't touch her, couldn't connect with her, couldn't talk to her. So I'd wonder if somehow she might be feeling in herself. Maybe she's feeling quite isolated, not able to connect to the people close to her, that she's dead and they're alive, and that they're so far apart.
And there's an interesting parallel there, isn't there, when people say, I think everyone I know at some point has had a secret sort of dream or fantasy about their own death, and thinking how people would miss me. You know, oh, they'll be sad when I'm gone. You know, and it can sometimes also be about feeling undervalued. That the only way you can imagine yourself being truly loved is if I'm gone. Then they'll realise. So
true. I've felt like that in the past. I think
we all do it.
See, they'd value me if I was dead, if I wasn't around.
I know, and there's a serious note there that people sometimes don't feel valued and appreciated or fully acknowledged, and they couldn't make the connection. So you and I would have fun with that one, wouldn't we?
We would. That's quite a good dream.
I'm just remembering my sister right now, because she used to keep me up sometimes at night, because we used to share a room. And she used to have these dreams, but she would literally, there was times when she would burst out laughing in her sleep. And I used to be really scared of her when she would do these things. And there was times when she would literally just sob in her sleep, and have to wake her up, and I say, look, Maria, it's not real, it's just a dream. But she would really the dreams really manifest themselves outside. And I'm just wondering why it didn't happen with me, but always with her. She'd be talking, crying, laughing, all these emotions would come out while she's sleeping. And I found it quite scary. I was like, oh my God, what should she do to me next to her in the bed?
Well, you know, for some people, dreaming is a way of releasing tensions. So we collect stress in our lives in all sorts of ways, and we need to have some outlet for releasing the stress. And there is an idea or belief that dreams somehow allow us to release stress, to express feelings that somehow in our waking lives we really struggle with. So that's one thing. But the other thing I want to say about what you're describing is, for people who are dreaming, the same is true of fantasies. Of course, people can have fantasies and they can feel like dreams, of course. But people have dreams and fantasies. What they're experiencing feels very real to them. And so this is to say that what goes on inside people and how they feel about things feel as powerful, sometimes more powerful than reality itself. So you do have to acknowledge for people that feels very real for them. It might be
scary. I think she still does these things.
Well, for that moment it feels real. And you know, perhaps she might feel, some people are very disturbed by their dreams, but also other people feel a sense of relief as well.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's take another one from Amelia as well, please.
Sandra, she commented, quite a funny one. She writes, I had a dream I was eating a very tasty lasagna.
Well, I want to watch my dreams.
Well, obviously I can't taste it, but a few days later I was determined to make one just like my dream, and it tasted quite good.
Okay, next.
We've got another one from Jessica. She's from North London. She comments, I had the most weirdest dream that I was holding a conference meeting at work. Before I knew it, I had no clothes on. It's quite a common one.
Oh, that's
I know.
The exposure one is very common. I never quite know what to make of it.
Oh, well, I can say something about that. It is a very common dream, and for many people, not for all people. So keep in mind, if you have dreams like this does not necessarily mean you, but oftentimes what it means is exposing yourself and feeling vulnerable. So you know, our clothes cover us, of course, but we also hide parts of ourselves all the time, so we don't feel so vulnerable in the world. But none of us would feel we feel most vulnerable, of course, if we were naked. And that's what I think those dreams.
Yeah,
She obviously doesn't feel comfortable with being in that situation where she's in front of people, because you are, you know, when like we are right now, live TV. So we are exposed, like in front of people are watching us now. We can make a mistake, as we often do, but it doesn't matter because, you know, you're our friends as well.
Yes.
So like people aren't comfortable normally in those situations where they're in front of people, they're talking, they can make a mistake. So that's probably where, you know, where that comes from. About the lasagna one.
Lasagna, that's just simple. You
that's
know.
funny.
You just want a nice lasagna, so you dream you have one, so you do it. Yeah. That's fine. That's
but I would say normally, like, I wouldn't act on a dream. I wouldn't do something because you've had a dream, unless it's something like, say for example, you dream about your mum because you haven't spoken to her for like ages. Okay, pick up the phone and call her. Basically, go and visit her. But normally I wouldn't act or get into a mood, because some people do get into bad moods because of a dream they've had, or they're scared. So that's something that's quite negative.
And I think that, as Naomi said before, about dreams have very personal meaning. And so when someone says, oh, I dreamt about a horse, that must mean so-and-so, or I dreamt about whatever, you know, a giraffe on a skateboard, that must mean I'm going to meet a tall, dark stranger. And that really doesn't work.
No.
You just go, okay.
I don't have meaning.
It's a personal symbol for you.
Yeah.
And that's what a good counsellor like Naomi would do, and therapist would be to get that, that symbol clear for that person.
Can we control our dreams?
Well, no, we can't control our dreams, but what we can do is we can take the time to understand what our dreams mean. So our dreams have a lot to teach us, to help us understand ourselves. And so what we can do is we can try to make sense of our dreams, if you like. And that helps quite a lot. If people are interested, by the way, in remembering their dreams more, some people like to dream and they like to remember their dreams. You can ask yourself before you go to sleep, you can almost wish to remember. And if you repeatedly wish to remember your dreams, chances are very good that you will remember more dreams.
Some of them you just want to forget straight away.
Yeah, you like to forget. Some people like to forget the dreams, other people like to remember. So if you go to sleep with the intention of remembering a dream, chances are good that you will remember.
Can I just pick up on the controlling dreams? Because when I was a kid, I used to have a recurring bad dream. And then one day I learned to control it. I just thought, here it comes again, here it comes again. I'm being chased by the bad man. I'm going to chase the bad man back. And I chased him away. And that gave me for a while a period where I could actually control my bad dreams. And sometimes I can still do it. It's fading now. But and some people can do that. If someone said to me they're having a terrible dream about an event like the bogeyman outside the door and they're going to get them, then I'd say, well, in your conscious life, recall that dream and imagine getting out of bed and opening the door and telling the bogeyman to go.
Yeah, to face it.
And if in your dream, just see if you can recall that feeling
really
that you got out of bed and you open the door and tell the bogeyman to go. And let's hope the bogeyman does go when you do that.
Could backfire.
Well, there you go.
Something that I used to do, actually, just before we go to a break, when I was having a nightmare when I was young, in the dream I would pinch, because I knew I was dreaming. Yes. In the dream I would pinch myself, especially when something was about to pounce on me or something, and I was always wake up. So that was like a trigger for me, because I knew I was dreaming, but I was still scared even though I was in a dream. So it's a bit weird anyway. Our brains are like a bit crazy. Could you stay with us for the next part as well? You're in a hurry to go.
Yes, that's right.
Is that all right? I'd like
to
ask you a few more questions and maybe also help me out with what would Chrissy do. We're going to have like a bit of a dilemma from a viewer. I'm going to give my opinion and I'd like to get your expert opinion if you don't mind. Is that all right? Yeah, okay then. But if you do have to dash, you can tell me. So let's go to a break, and also after the break we'll also be featuring a ladies' that lunch that Barbara and Joanna went to. So join us after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. Well, I still have my experts with me tonight. I didn't let them go home because I want to talk to them a bit more. I find it really interesting. But first, let's go to a video of ladies that lunch. And I suppose for the lasagna person that was dreaming about lasagna, this will be a nice one for you.
Today for Ladies at Lunch, I've come down to the Hill Bar and Brasserie, which is on Haverstock Hill, to try out their new menu. Joanna's inside, so let's go and see her. So I'm here with Barry, the manager of the Hill. So how long have you been working here for?
That's quite a recent development, but I've been here about a year.
A year, and I know recently you changed your menu. It's very recently been updated. Was that yesterday?
Yeah, we just changed to the autumn menu as of yesterday, yeah. So we've got lots of nice new things on there. The main thing with the Hill is the concept. It's a North American styled restaurant, so we draw on influences from all over the globe, but predominantly North American.
Okay, what do you think is your favourite thing about working here?
My favourite thing about working here is the service attitude of the Hill Bar and Brasserie. We like to go that extra bit for our customers so they have like a really great experience here. It's not a case of just coming, bringing the food, putting it down and leaving. We like to bring the North American dining experience to people, which is something that you don't find in a lot of bars.
The steak that I had, was that, you said that it wasn't really from England, was that an American steak?
It was a flat iron steak, yeah. It's not a cut of meat that you see a lot, but it's very popular, nice, tender, juicy piece of meat.
So if people want to find out a bit of information like the stuff you've got on the menu here or where it is, what's the website?
It's www.thehilllondon.com, and they can go in there and they can check out our menu and what we offer. And they can also give us a call here at the Hill, and we're always happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
That's great. We've looked after us really well today. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Okay, so watch out for a competition that we're going to be having very soon for you to win a meal at that restaurant. And don't forget the competition that we've got running already for a free meal for two, 3-course meal at Made in Brazil. And if you want more information about that, that's up on our website, chrissybshow.tv. And you know, you can email your answers through. There's a little video there for you to watch and then give us the correct answer. Okay, so if you want to participate in the show, you still can. I've got the What Would Chrissy Do section coming up just now. So if you have a dilemma that you're going through, you're not quite sure what to do, and you know, you'd like my opinion, what I would do in your situation, so you can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. But let's go to the one for today. Oh, Emilia.
Good morning.
Hello.
Okay, we've got one here from the viewer. She says, my childhood memories aren't very good ones, but I remember the most are my parents arguing a lot. They eventually split up and divorced, but those memories are etched in my mind forever. I've met someone that I really care about and things are getting serious, but I'm terrified of the same thing happening to us. My mum says that she and my dad used to be really close, and then they drifted apart, and it all went wrong. I'm wondering if I should get out now to save myself from being hurt later.
Okay, so that's, I think that's, all right, so that's something, obviously, you know, you're quite worried about something that might happen to you because it happened to your parents. Now, first thing I'd like to say, you said, like, your mum said that your parents just drifted apart. I personally don't believe that people just drift apart for no reason. There's obviously something that's happened, or maybe one partner hasn't really been sort of valuing the relationship, putting enough into the relationship, or both actually. So people don't just drift apart first of all. So that's something you can take that as an actual warning in your current relationship, that you need to invest in your relationship to keep it going. No matter how much you love each other or how much you get along, the fact is, if you don't spend time together, if you don't, you know, have that time together, that where you're talking, where you're communicating, you will drift apart. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. And also, like we said earlier, if you fear things will go wrong, there's a big chance that they probably will, because as we were saying, you're going to start behaving in a certain way, you're going to have certain worries. So maybe you'll start looking at your partner and because maybe he's been out, for example, with his friends, you might start thinking, oh my gosh, he doesn't care about me. And you might start even verbalizing that. So you might say, oh, but maybe you don't love me anymore. And you start to sort of bring all these negative things up that's going to start to maybe affect your relationship as well. So just because it happened to your parents doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. You can actually look at whatever was negative and what happened to them, and you can use that as like a warning for you that, I'm not going to do the same. I'm not going to, bring up the past, for example, or I'm not going to go to sleep, for example, without sorting out a problem that we have. I'm always going to make sure I communicate with my partner. So you've got someone that you love there. Why are you going to throw that away? I can understand your fears. I can understand that, you're worried, and maybe you think that by letting this relationship go, it will prevent you from being hurt later on. But in actual fact, I think personally, that you're missing out on an opportunity of being really happy. So, as I said, just because it's happened to your parents doesn't mean it's going to happen to you as well. I don't know what our experts think as well about that. What do you think?
I'll kick off and you join in. Yeah. Okay. My first thought was, bravo to the viewer to actually saying that stuff out loud and thinking through the kind of anxiety she's got about her relationship. That's a good start to acknowledge it. And I think exactly what you just said, really, that she seems to be saying, I've seen relationships go wrong, a very important relationship in my life go wrong. One between my mum and my dad went very badly wrong. And she seems to be saying, I want to protect myself against that happening to me. And if you take that defensive position, you won't have a relationship. You just can't. You can't give the intimacy. But I think she's very brave to start to see that. And it's just one brief word to say, because things have happened in the past to other people, it doesn't predict the future. You make the future one step at a time, in the way that you said. I don't know what you think, Naomi.
Yes. Everything it said is very good. I'll just add something to that as well. I think, yes, she's done so well to recognise this, and to be concerned into thinking about this, that she doesn't want to make the mistakes her parents made. All of us tend to internalize our parents' relationship. So how we see how people are close, we get from how we remembered our parents' closeness. And that gives us a kind of a internal map inside for how to go about married life. What I would say, and add to what's been said, is she needs to find out other ways of being close. How do other people maintain close relationships? Her parents didn't give her much of a model of how people get over arguments, about how people might resolve conflicts, about how people love and respect one another. So she'll have to find out in other ways. Hopefully her partner will bring some of this to the marriage, and perhaps he can teach her some things, and perhaps she can start to observe good relationships around her and try to find other models for how people are close together.
It's understandable that she feels that way if that's all she's seen. So,
Yes.
but there are always other positive role models in a way that you can look to and say, okay, this is what a marriage is supposed to be, a relationship should be like.
That's a very good point. I think your point about how to handle conflict, I mean, that came across very strongly. What she seemed to be saying is, I've seen conflict that was really destructive, and therefore I mustn't have conflict in this relationship. And if you're going to have a relationship with anyone, you're going to encounter conflict.
You will, yeah.
You're going to have to deal with it in one way or another. It's very hard and very easy to spout about it, but I'd say that just learning, you can have conflict and a relationship can still go on and grow and be a good one, and that's okay.
Right. It's true. Okay. All right. So if you also have a bit of a dilemma, see, I'm taking advantage of our experts to that as well. So if you have a dilemma as well, please do email me, chris@chrissybshow.tv. You don't have to give your real name, even if you want to call. And actually, we video people as well. The brave ones that actually want to appear on camera, we actually do video people as well. We record people. So if you'd like to take part in that, please do let us know. Now, back to the dreams. I've had a few more questions. Just to speak about someone very famous that has a nightmare issue, or had one. This is Johnny Depp, and he says, never mind the oldies classic, Not Everyone Loves a Clown. Despite the clownish makeup he wore in Edward Scissorhands and Alice in Wonderland, excuse me, Depp has a fear of clowns, a condition known as, let me see if I pronounce this correctly, coulrophobia. Have you heard of that? No?
No.
Okay. He even had nightmares about them as a child. And he says, it's impossible to distinguish if clowns are happy or if they're about to bite your face off. That's probably what, because I used to have this dream when I was young as well. It was like a clown outside my window, and you know those kind of French ones with the stripes and the kind of painted faces, and like doing this on the window. Yes. And I was really like, And then all of a sudden it was by my door, and it was like trying to open the door to get into my house. I was terrified of them. I still don't like them actually, but
yeah, I'm with Johnny Depp on this one. I don't have nightmares about them. I've never found clowns particularly funny.
You don't like clowns?
Not particularly, no. And those ones, the Piero ones with the stripy white.
They're
no,
horrible.
thank you.
And even those ones that stand around in Covent Garden and they're really still and stuff. I hate them. Sorry, not them. But I really don't like sort of standing there just watching these people just like that.
I mean, it's quite a common phobia, and it's been used a lot. The Simpsons use it in their cartoon. They have Krusty the Clown, who's horrific. And whenever they were showing Bart as a baby when he was having nightmares, it would be a clown. It's a famous thing, yeah.
It's only a bit of face paint though when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a bit of a red nose. Should be quite funny.
Yeah, I never got clowns.
Okay. What about a dream within a dream, Andrew? What do you think of those? Because those are like...
Well, that's been used in films. In Inception and American Werewolf in London, they use the same idea that the person thinks they've woken up and they go, phew, that was an awful dream. And then something dreadful happens and they're not really woken up, they're in another dream. And I've had some experiences like that myself. And it's not uncommon where you think you're waking out of a dream. I wouldn't read too much into it. I just think it's a very powerful dream which is determined to keep you there in the state of anxiety or whatever it is, and it's not letting you out. And one of the delightful ways the unconscious has, and this is more known area than mine, the unconscious, I think it's quite clever and creative. It will go, okay, you're scared, you're having a scary dream, I'm going to let you out of this dream now, you're going to wake up and see you've woken up and you're putting your clothes on, but you haven't really woken up. And it's that thing again, it's the unconscious trying to keep you in that place that it's trying to deal with something you're not really acknowledging. That would be my guess.
Now, I have a friend actually, he tweeted the other day that he was having I'll say who it is. It's Richard Anderson from the Liberty Radio show, because he tweeted it anyway, so everyone knows. He said he was having back-to-back nightmares, and it was just like, it just wasn't stopping. And then he said afterwards, that will serve me right for eating chicken and chips after midnight. So sometimes does it happen like maybe something to do with food, if you do like eat a lot of junk maybe that before you go to bed or something that you...
That'd probably be the last place I'd look. I think just eating heavy meals before you go to sleep is going to keep you awake because your body has to digest it, and it's not be very relaxing. So I say don't eat heavy meals before you go to bed. But my first guess, he's a guy on a radio show, he's a busy guy. Back to back, even the
back-to-back songs, he plays back-to-back songs.
Well, even the phrase.
There you go, we know.
It just sounds like intense pressure to me.
Yeah.
That'd be my first.
But he does play back-to-back songs sometimes, though. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's it. Okay, we have reached the end of our show. Thank you so much for staying on to talk more. Pleasure. It's been really interesting. And the bottom line is, for the viewers, please don't worry about your dreams. Don't let them stress you out. Don't change your behaviour because of a dream that you've had. And if you do need to talk to someone about it, if it is something that's really bothering you, you're having constant nightmares or anything like that, please do get in contact with me and I can put you in touch with organisations that can help you as well, counsellors as well. You can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv, because I know people, for example, that they're always dreaming about snakes and awful things like that. And obviously that is quite stressful to especially if it's happening like every single night. But you can get help like that. So please do email me, chris@chrissybshow.tv. And on Wednesday, we're going to be speaking about anxiety. So, maybe you two should come back.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do another show about anxiety and how it's something that affects most people at some point in their lives, maybe even every day, and how to also deal with it. So join us for that show on Wednesday. Thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.
Shut up!
Okay.
Yeah? Today for Ladies at Lunch, I've come to the Hill Bar and Brasserie, which is in Haverstock. So noisy. I'm trying to get in a happy mood, sorry. Today I'm outside the... Sorry. At least we've ordered the food. Today for Ladies at Lunch, I've come down to the Hill Bar and Brasserie, which is on Haverstock Hill. We've come down to try the new menu. Joanna's inside waiting for me. Let's go and have a look. Today for Ladies at Lunch, I've come to the Hill Bar and Brasserie, which is on the... Oh!